Yo, Kaspa family, what's good? I'm going to be looking at on-chain wallet activity and also the funds, Kaspa funds, like, the Rusty Kaspa fund, the DagKnight fund. I'm going to be deep diving into that because there's some activity going on chain, and I want to break that down for you guys and help you understand what's happening, what has happened, and where we're headed forward. Imagine driving your car, having Michael Sutton and his whole team of developers just changing the engine of your vehicle midway of not just any vehicle, but one of the fastest vehicles, one of the fastest race cars out there. And by changing that engine, you can then accelerate that same car, that same vehicle to 10 blocks per second. All right, let's take a look first at these wallets. NZDX has now over 5% in the entire supply. That's just wild because Satoshi himself, he has the 5% on Bitcoin. So is this our little Satoshi? We'll see. They're still staying private, so who honestly knows? They also are the largest buyer of Kaspa in the last 90 days, NZDX. So we also check the largest seller, and let's see here. It looks like it is actually a miner. See this type of stuff here? This is typical miner activity. So they're selling for profit as a miner, selling a lot over the past 90 days. But over the past 30 days, you see like this, it just fluctuates. They're up 3 million. Past 7 days, they're down 1.5 million. Minor activity. So we got NZDX's largest buyer. Let's check number 27. This is also a massive buyer. Like, all right, this is not a miner. This is just a massive entity. Whoever it is, they're just buying loads from different exchanges. Depends, even very recent too. Check wallet number 90. And this looks like it's a slow accumulation while perhaps also mining. But overall, they're accumulating pretty heavy, one of the largest buyers in the past 90 days. So now let's look at the funds, all right? Let's check out the DagKnight fund. Gosh, even Mara has their own fund, and they're accumulating over the past 90 days about 5 million Kaspa. Pretty cool. They're not selling. All right, DagKnight fund, it's been inactive, and it still is inactive. Okay, I'm going to be going deep into this fund and what it exactly means, what this fund are being used for, because honestly, there's not so much open transparency. Like, you may not really know if you don't dig deep. First, before going to DagKnight, let's go into Rust Fund because this is where there's actual activity happening. And actually, the Rust Fund was the one that was first created back in July 2022. Yeah, we see here tracking down some wallets. You see some activity from 2022, July, just as I mentioned, and you just track the activity and it all goes here and it all gets aggregated into this Rust fund as we know it. So now finally we're getting some activity here, and to understand why we're finally getting this activity for the Rust fund, we have to dive deep into what this funds and what the whole purpose of these funds are for. Before even going into that, let me just say a quick note, okay? Even with the most recent transactions to the contributors of the Rust fund, so we see here 21.6 million Kaspa, and guess what? Our developers are OG hodlers. They're in it for the long term because not a single one of these, except the lowest amount, 100,000, none of them sold. None of them even moved it. Okay, they all holding it for the long term. They have that long-term vision you see here. This one didn't sell it, didn't even move it. None of them did. So you already know, whoever they are, they believe in Kaspa and they're holding it for, of course, the inevitable adoption, inevitable increase in price, in my opinion, and evidently in their opinion as well. Kaspa developers are just made better. Vitalik has never bought a single Ethereum in his whole life in Ethereum. He had his pre-mined bag from day one, and he's just been selling. And it's kind of sad, but that's just the reality when you have pre-mined coins and all that type of pre-allocations. They don't need to buy. Why would they buy? They already have their whole supply and they're good for life. Vitalik's good for life. He's selling, but no, our developers are holding, as you see, even with the Rusty Kaspa fund, they're holding their bags of Kaspa. That's their allocation. That's their financial freedom. And that's what's going to drive their continued development in Kaspa as well. Oh my gosh, it'd be kind of stupid to sell at the bottom, but hey, this person did. It's not $100,000 yet. 100,000 Kaspa, they actually sold. They sent it to change now. You'll never be able to absolutely confirm if someone sells, because even sending it to change now or even sending it to a different exchange, like perhaps they're just sending it to that exchange just to send it out to a different wallet to be a little bit more anonymous. So you don't know. But anyways, these wallets are anonymous. They're not linked to any single person. They're keeping that anonymous. That's at their request. I think it's a very fair request. Knowing that our developers are in it for the long term, just like us, inactive supply is skyrocketing. Heck, I wish that was the price. But hey, check it out. 4 years, 3 years plus. the supply keeps on increasing. The supply not moving over all these years. It just keeps on steadily increasing. Let's check where it finally starts to drop down. Even the 1 year steadily increasing. 6 months, it's a bit flat, but still increasing slowly. 3 months, dang, that's a nice spike. So literally even the short-term holders, they're done. They're capitulated. They're off of Kaspa. They're moved on to something else. Probably bought XRP or Fart coin or whatever on Binance, of course. Had to be Binance. Now, all the Caspians right here holding are the OGs investing for the long term. Inactive supply is just pretty much skyrocketing. This is literally going to create a supply squeeze, and we're going to see that especially from this lows. There's not going to be enough supply for these big whales to come back in. When they want to FOMO back in, when the bull market is confirmed, when the altcoins are skyrocketing or blasting up from these lows, everyone that's not in right now, they're going to try to storm in, and they're not going to have the supply needed to buy their bag back at the price that currently it's at. It's going to shoot the price up. Anyways, enough about the price. Let's go into the Rust fund, okay? So here we go on Discord, July 7th, 2022. Michael Sutton is here explaining the whole process. So they actually already had an allocated 20 million Kaspa from the general dev fund to be allocated for this Rust project, and they had a target of 100 million Kaspa. So this Rust is essential. It's absolutely essential. What the Rust Kaspa represents is literally rewriting the entire code base of Kaspa to a language model that is optimized for speed and efficiency and parallelized processing. Okay, so here's actually a written proposal for the Rust fund, and here are the motivations. Basically, efficiency and performance. This is going to allow literally everything moving forward with Kaspa. So back in the day, Kaspa was working at 1 block per second. To upgrade Kaspa, you would need the Rust upgrade. You would need the Rust programming language to allow smart contracts. They're looking even for DeFi. They're looking at increased blocks per second and transactions per second. So this is all only possible through Rust because of how efficient the language is. It's absolutely required. So that's why this major fund for Rust, I mean, 100% worth the amount, 100 million Kaspa, especially back in the day at 2022. Funny enough, of the entire price history of Kaspa, the time of this proposal was literally the first little tick, the first month Kaspa even got listed on CoinMarketCap. Here, the price is, what is this price? 0.000. That's literally, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, seen from the current price right now, it's literally 100x. I had to just do it just to make sure. This is the quick little calculator. 100x. Back then, it's already risen 100x. So the OGs back in the day have already gained 100x their bag, 100x profit. 100x even from these crazy, ridiculous lows. That's why you have to understand, like, oh, why are we falling? Why are we selling? Because Kaspa has had the largest gains since, like, I don't even know what's a comparison of another coin that has had such large gains from the start, because it's a fair launch project. You don't have these VCs and everything starting with the starting market cap for the coin at like 1 or 4 billion. And if it was like for Kaspa 1 or 4 billion, I mean, gosh, this would be the chart right here. This is all we would see, just a constant downtrend, and it would keep going down and down and down until probably went back down to 0. But no, we're holding up at an 800 million market cap, and we'll see. You know, this looks like it could very well be this bottom. It looks like altcoins are starting to flatten out with respect to Bitcoin, and it's starting to form a little bit of a breakout with respect to Bitcoin. So I'm saying optimistic, but you have to understand that 100 million cash at that price, that's a measly $30,000. A measly, okay? For all the work required for Rust and for even DagKnight, which was asking for 70 million, it depends on the price. I mean, I'm sure the price was extremely volatile at the early days. This is definitely a fair request. And the thing is, this type of development, securing the funds for this development is absolutely essential, especially in the early days. So you have to understand, like, how is it fair now that the price has risen 100x since when this proposal was made? How is it fair that now they're getting all this extra money? Well, I think it's absolutely fair. Think of it like a company that they have shares of a stock, and the OGs in that company, the developers who helped create and build the company to what it is today, for example, back in the early days of that company, that's what they would do. They give their workers, their employees, the CEO, they give them shares of the company to incentivize their good and great work to build the company. And that's exactly what happened. So now, I mean, that's how a lot of people get rich, the shares of a company, or in this case, share the supply, coins of a crypto. That's how you can get rich, by buying and holding for long term, knowing where we're headed. knowing what this development is going to be able to do for the price, for adoption, for the technology, what it means for developers, what it means for companies, what it means for banks, what it means for institutions, what this Kaspa network means for the entire world. You invest for the long term, okay? This is literally shares in the company. This shares of the Kaspa company. You want to get rich, you buy and you hold. Pretty simple. And these Kaspa funds is pretty heckin' good that they're honestly lucky that these funds have been held up. But you have to understand, why have they been locked up for all this time, and only recently they've been starting to see some outflows since 2025, only 2025. So it's been in here for like 3 years. What's been going on? Why has this money been locked up in here? Again, you have to go back to the proposal. What is this looking for? Rewriting Kaspa in Rust. It doesn't just end there. That's the thing. It wasn't just about running it in Rust, but also benchmark parameters. This was extremely important for settling the blocks per second, transaction per second configuration for the long run. This is also one of the goals. So this Rust rewrite was incorporated as well. This whole fund for the Rust rewrite wasn't just for the Rust rewrite, but it was also for the Crescendo upgrade. I was looking around a lot and I couldn't find anywhere, not even on the Discord, anywhere where it mentioned Crescendo upgrade funds. The Crescendo upgrade was made possible by the Rusty Kaspa developers. So that's how Kaspa was able to upgrade at 10 blocks per second. 10 blocks per second is amazing. It's incredible what they're able to do. Here, even Michael Sutton explains it, that the Rust to Kaspa was like changing the engine of a vehicle in the middle of the ride. Changing the engine of a vehicle, the middle of a ride. Imagine driving your car, having Michael Sutton and his whole team of developers just changing the engine of your vehicle midway, of not just any vehicle, but one of the fastest vehicles, one of the fastest race cars out there. And by changing that engine, you can then accelerate that same car, that same vehicle to 10 blocks per second. And that's what this 10 blocks per second hard fork is. That's why the Rusty Kaspa funds, it seems like we're also going toward this hard fork. Let me just look here. When was Rust upgrade for Kaspa? The Rusty upgrade was from July 2022. That's when it was introduced. The alpha version scheduled for April 2023. But you see the Rust funds didn't move until 2025. But you see the Crescendo hard fork took place on May 2025. Now we check out the unveiling Crescendo hard fork roadmap. Again, this is 2024, before it was released. You can read through the necessity of 10 blocks per second and this massive milestone. You scroll down a little bit and you see currently Rusty Kaspa developers are busy with preparing a mainnet version. The core open source development team is now starting to prepare for the hard fork, and that includes the Rusty Kaspa developers and, by extension, the money that's funding their work. That's the Rusty Kaspa fund. So that's why you see it took about 4 months since the Crescendo upgrade to start seeing transfers out of this wallet. There's a lot of multi-sig people. And just understand that this whole fund is already allocated to people. It's already been allocated. So this fund doesn't represent money that can be used for new developments in Kaspa. No, this fund's already allocated. Everything's already settled. So there's been a lot of development from Rusty Kaspa to 10 BPS. And just to give you a better insight, like look at all the contributors for the Rusty Kaspa code base on GitHub, and you scroll down and you see all these different people, all these different developers. My computer has trouble loading it all. And we go here as well to see, all right, who's the most starred, like the MVP of this whole GitHub aspect here. Michael Sutton, coder of stuff, a whole ton of them. Now let's check out recently updated to give you a better sense of the active developers of the code base. And you see updated 14 hours ago, yesterday, 2 days ago, all the way up to a week. All these people, all these developers. I mean, heck, I've not seen like more than half of these names. And here they are working on Kaspa, open source GitHub. Even you see Igra Labs here from 4 months ago. So there you go. And that's just the second page, and that's 4 months. So that shows that this is a little bit of how many developers. And people say, oh, it's an Israeli coin. No, it's a global network of not just like decentralized global network of, because the nodes literally span the entire world. But also the development is open source and global. It's decentralized because it's just people from all around the world contributing to the code base. Now we check here with DagKnight. It was introduced, the proposal for funding, December 18, 2022. And dang, man, this is just insane. They knew it. At the time, they knew what they were investing in, because they had to go asking for 70 million. And they're basically explaining what this means. And absolutely, they understood what it meant back then. I entered the Kaspa community when DagKnight was finally released, the white paper. I knew, even the community back in the day, oh geez, we all knew what we were investing in. It's pretty clear as hecking day that it was the most undervalued, most superior technology in the crypto space. Of course, DagKnight wasn't implemented yet, but you had the white paper, all the information, all the technology proven on paper. But that's enough. The math is done. So now it's about implementing it. But you can't implement DagKnight without the Rusty Kaspa upgrade. Okay, you can't implement DagKnight without 10 BPS. So the next step moving forward is DagKnight Q3 2026. The next upgrade is going to be going to like 30 blocks per second to around 40 blocks per second, somewhere around there. That's going to be the next upgrade before we even reach 100 blocks per second. So it's just absolutely incredible that this is going to be the next step. And the timeline is actually happening faster than expected, especially with help of an expanded core dev team. DagKnight is the new consensus protocol that achieves responsiveness, a world first. It reacts to the actual network delay, unlike every other coin, including current GhostDAG protocol. Incredibly, it retains a 50% Byzantine tolerance, so it is faster and more secure than GhostDAG, which is crazy. And that's what we've been saying all this time. The DagKnight is going to literally increase the security, and it's going to be offering even greater security than Bitcoin, fundamentally speaking, for how fast it is and responsive to the network delay itself. Requires less confirmations to be provably secure. That's what I'm talking about. It's real-time Bitcoin. That's the difference. Intrinsically scale as internet speeds increase. Basically, as the internet gets faster over the next decades with more fiber optic cables, etc., Kaspa will scale with this without any hard fork interventions. And of course, not just that, but also a net split. An internet split, it's going to be resistant to that. I'm going to have to go into another video about it to really explain, because Jonathan did his best to explain. He did an incredible job explaining how that can work. He was even suggesting to a Zcash developer if they'd like to use Kaspa to implement this technology by using Kaspa for Zcash. It's pretty heckin' cool, his proposal there in a little comment on X. This will make our coin, Kaspa, literally the ultimate L1 proof of work coin in existence. No exaggeration. They knew what's up back in the day. So of course, funding for this was absolutely no problem. 70 million represents about just 0.25% of the supply, still a ton. Now this is what's going to be powering not just DagKnight, but also vProg implementation. That's what I believe this fund is going to be used for as well. But we'll see how it works out, because vProgs even has, like Aspect, for example, he was in charge of creating Sparkle. I don't know if you remember, but KSPR, they with their whole marketplace, they funded $1 million for the development of Sparkle, which is like a layer 1.5. Now that Sparkle, what Aspect was basically leading for a while, and under the radar, like basically keeping it really low key, focusing on his work. So what ended up happening is his work was so similar to what they had the vision for vProgs that he ended up just putting his work into and helping with the creation of vProgs. So now he's focusing with vProgs in that optimized L1 framework for DeFi on Kaspa, rather than putting it off to like a 1.5 layer or like a layer 2. Now he's focusing on the L1 on Kaspa. So that's pretty cool that Aspect is there, sharing the same vision as Jonathan and of course the entire community. But that's what we're looking for. But there's definitely money around, okay, for these major projects. For anything others, for these smaller projects, for example, that's something that Kaspa Ecosystem Foundation, KEF, that's something they like to fund. They like to help some developers out. Like, for example, funding like the research for an Oracle, funding different little projects that are absolutely important and very applicable to Kaspa. You see here the hash rate and the price is flatlining a little bit. Hash rate following the price, pretty normal. That's what's up, guys. Buy your bag, HODL. And if you don't have yet a tangent, I'm telling you, 30% off, limited time frame right now. Use promo code SCAPE, link in description. Peace out.